Welcome to the Milano Wine Week, wine business forum focused to Brazil, dedicated to the growing Brazilian market. Let me introduce Karine de Souza, KDS Food and Wines. Welcome, Karine.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you, good morning. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you, Milano Wine Week. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really happy to be here. So, welcome, and I will begin this presentation introducing myself. So, let me know, yes, it's here. So, I'm Karine de Souza, I'm Brazilian, from Rio de Janeiro. And I have been living in Italy for 30 years. So I'm more Italian than Brazilian, because 30 years is not, well, it's okay, 30 years. Okay. And I'm graduated in marketing and communication with a master in foreign trade and specialization in customs analysis. And for 20 years, I have been dealing with international business as the helm of my company, KDS International Business Consulting, which today is an international group and present in some countries, and to which KDS Food and Wines belongs. We help wineries to enter complex markets, mainly in Brazil, in a strategic and effective way. Thanks for organization, part of the team, that is based in Italy and which constantly maintains contact with the customer and the operational and the commercial team based in Brazil, where we have 3 offices, São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Belo Horizonte, in addition to perfect cultural, fiscal, and customs that is knowledge of the country. Over the years, we have become a trusted partner for many wineries in Europe and for importers and distributors on our knowledge of the old world from Brazil. So this is Karine de Souza and KDS Food and Wines. But now I would like to introduce you my country and explain you why it's important to know Brazil, and why it's important know some information and some numbers to do a strategic exportation from our country. It's a wonderful country, but it's really important to know it, okay? Brazil is a federal country with 26 independent states and federal district. Brasilia, it's our capital. And this is more important information in this presentation. We will understand it later. It's an entry point for Mercosur. And the Mercosur is, Brazil is the door for Mercosur. And Mercosur is from Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela, Bolivia, and associates countries like Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, and Suriname. The Brazilian economy is the largest in Latin America and the 9th in the world in terms of nominal gross domestic product size, and the 7th in spending power. Brazil is one of the fastest growing economies, and economic reforms have given the country new international recognition, regionally and globally. The country's potential lies in its economic, demographic, territorial, and sectorial dimensions. 1,800,000,000 gross domestic products, 211 million inhabitants, with an average age under 40 years. So it's a very young country, okay? It's important information too. It's a very fast mind and fast way of business way. So it's another important information when you want to work with this country. Because here in the old world, we are different. The country ranks among the top 3 world producers for numerous commodities, in particular agri-food and mining, sugar, coffee, tobacco, meat. Strong presence of resident Italians and Brazilian citizens of Italian origin, about 30 million. 968 companies are registered, including Italian brands and production plants, 9% of which are distributed in the south and southeast region. Sorry, but I have some problems with my presentation. Okay. In São Paulo, in São Paulo, there are 2,500 restaurants with 52 different types of cuisine, over 500 churrascarias, typical Brazilian steakhouse, 250 Japanese foods, and 15,000 bars, pubs. Everyone tries to have Italian wines on their wine list. The number of restaurants in the city of São Paulo has grown by 68% over the past 10 years. This sector has an average annual turnover of 32 billion reais, about 7 billion euros. These numbers before the COVID era. The economy will return to expand in 2021, more 3.5%, and the gross domestic products level of the first quarter of 2020 will be reached in the third quarter of 2021, according to estimates of private analysis collected by the central bank. Brazil is more solid than the previous crisis, thanks to a mix of fiscal discipline, spending ceiling from 2016, accumulation of foreign exchange reserves, favorable debt composition, and monetary discipline, timely and autonomous central bank from February 2021. This information is very important to know exactly what Brazil is, because a lot of wineries and a lot of entrepreneurs don't know exactly the dimension of this country and the power of this country. And it's really, really important to know the power of Brazil. Now, let's see the numbers. The numbers of Italian wine import numbers in Brazil. These statistics are from idealconsulting.com.br, the most important site in Brazil for this information. It's talking about sparkling wine, still wine, and champagne too. In 2020, for FOB value in dollars, because our importers, they work with FOB Incoterms, okay? So FOB and not ex-works Incoterms. FOB Incoterms, we import more than $35 million in Italian wines. The volume more than 1.2 million of 12 bottle boxes. So not 6 bottle boxes, 12 bottle boxes. And the statistics are divided in rosé wines for 5.9%, white wine 21.3%, and red wine 72.8%. You can understand with these numbers that Brazil loves red wine, okay? So it's very important enter in our market with red wine. So it's very important information too. For this year, 2021, up to June, okay, with an increase in the average ticket. So we are then we have a guest, Jessica, that will explain us how the market's going, and you understand too why the average ticket. Okay, for the FOB value in dollars, we have more than $20 million. For the volume, more than 622,000 of 12 bottle boxes, divided in rosé wine 5.7%, white wine 19.9%, and red wine 74.4%. Now, the question, do you know where to sell your wine, I invite you to see exactly how is Brazil make 26 different states and Brasilia, our capital. So it's very big. You can imagine that Italian stay into Brazil 27 times. Okay, so it can put 27 times Italia into Brazil. It's a very, very big country. It's a continent, okay? We said before that Brazil is made up of 26 independent states, no? The first information is said before. So it has 26 different taxes at state levels, in addition to municipal taxes. It's a lot, okay? So we have federal taxes, state taxes, and municipal taxes. What it means? Okay, if I import from a state, it doesn't mean that I can sell it in other states, because the passage from one state for another one often involves the payment of internal taxes, okay, that we say substituição tributária. It's important word to know in Portuguese, substituição tributária. That increase my product, our wine, our product price, and make it no longer competitive. Okay, so there must be an export strategy to find the right importer. Many times is necessary have a lot of more than one, a lot of importers in different states. Okay, because just one is not enough. The export must be planned in advance and requires knowledge of the market also at a fiscal level. It is of fundamental importance to know where our buyer is, in order to create a target strategy sale without wasting time and money in a country as large as a continent. The risk is to try to sell our wine where and to those who have no money, or culture to accept it. In order to know where our buy is, we believe that a customer's analysis of our products is of fundamental importance. That is an important simulation that gives us a clear vision of the incoming costs and as a strategy for positioning the product. For these reasons, I have chosen to invite the next guests. Luis Ferreira, who will talk to us about logistics and customs. And after him, Jessica, who will speak later, she will talk us about the market and numbers and trends. They are two partners, very important, and I invite you to pay attention in the next discuss. Thank you very much for your attention. And, oh, it's okay. Now it's Luis is coming. Please. It's okay. Thank you. No, she's Jessica, she's not Luis.
I'm ready.
Okay. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you, Karini. Hello, everyone. Let's go on. Thanks for participation. We will be in a rush because we have a lot of things to talk about. Aduana Brazil, it's so extensive. But we have few minutes, so we must talk very, very quickly. So, introducing myself, I have more than 40 years in logistics in foreign trade, and working all my life in logistics until now. So you can go on to the next slide and show some information about Aduana. I share or you share, Karine?
No, can you share the slides, please? Louise's slide. Thank you.
I'm not able to do
Yes,
it.
it's here. No. Just a moment, please. Is this the first one? Oh. It's the best thing of the live, no?
Yeah, live is live.
Yes, it's the best. It's okay. Is it okay? Okay. Please, Luis, can you begin?
I'm not seeing the slides.
You can see the slides.
I must see what's happening in the frame.
Okay, you are in the first one. In the chemical and safety. Oh, you have to introduce yourself. Luis,
Yeah,
who
I
is
did
Luis
it.
Carlos?
Yeah, that's me.
So please introduce yourself. Do you have?
I have more than 14 years in foreign trading and logistics issues. So today I am a partner of Castellan Logistics and Foreign Trading. Let's do the next one, please.
Do you need your slides? No.
It's important because it's a guide
Is
for
it
my.
possible to him to see the slides?
I can do it for here, no problem. Let me
Okay.
open.
Okay. Can I go?
Okay.
Okay. Why export? I am in the next
Yeah.
one. Why export?
Going on with the team. Why export? It's very important to know why export, because show me some reasons makes the companies export. They usually needs expansion of business and markets. They must have brand strengths his brands. They usually needs improved results and other personal and business issues. And so it's necessary to know marketing features and opportunities. Choose products, in our case, wine, identify clients, make a strategy, and find the right timing, because timing is very important. And another issue is the custom legislation, because if you don't know, you can't do business in other country. All this package looking for the best prices and profit margins in this market, in this new market.
Luis, sorry, they are telling me that we can see you. You have to share
Seu vídeo está desligado,
você tem que compartilhar o teu visor com a gente.
Okay, às vezes ele escapa aqui, mas já está voltando.
Entendeu? Você tem que compartilhar o seu visor, senão eles não veem você.
Okay.
Voltou. Agora.
Here I am. Okay, I was talking about prices and profit margins.
Okay, thank you.
And so that's why important we find the scenarios of simulations.
Okay.
So you can complete the figure. Okay? But it's impossible to talk about that and not talk about aduana. So do the next one. And we talk a little bit about aduana Brazil. Okay?
Okay.
So in aduana Brazil, the custom regulation has more than 820 articles with sub-items and a lot of paragraphs. And they are daily updated. That's not an easy business follow all these rules. And another important point is that Brazilian custom is more than 30 years. We are totally electronic system, totally integrated system. Okay, that is a picture talking about aduana, and DSEX, that is the department that controls all the rules, the agents that support all the aduana working, like health, agriculture, environment, and engineering, and the Bacen, that is the central bank, Brazilian central bank. Okay? Well, all this is based in the HS code. I think everyone knows a little bit thing about HS code. For us, we call NCM. That calls Mercosul Common Nomenclature. It's bring us the product classification, and we find taxes and the administrative requirements. That's where we start. We must have a very, very good classification to do the right thing in next steps of the work. And another thing that is different in Brazil, that usually in another of countries we have only 1% of VA in taxes. But in Brazil we have a lot of taxes. So we have federal and we have state taxes. So we have importation, we have a tax of industrialization, we have a social program tax, and we have another one, social security tax. And what is more common for everyone is the circulation tax of the goods. Okay? Next one.
Okay.
Time is running, so the next one is I'm just giving you an overview about how big the taxes are. So for red and white wine, we have these taxes, 27% for importation, 10% for industrialization, and social program 2.1, social security 9.65, and circulation 25%. For champagne type champagne, we have 20, 10, 2.1, 9.65, and 25. These three last ones are the same, and the first one changes for different types of product. Okay, it's important to know that all the taxes are applied over CIF value, so increases a lot. And we have some particularities of for choose the numbers. Okay, but we are talking about simulation process, so that's it. Why important to do this simulation? Because we can find different scenarios. We can evaluate the different scenarios. We can check all the feasibility for operation in the new market. We can establish we can establish margins and profitability. We have better assessment for the structure and phases implementation. We can mix, we can find better ways. We can map the best corporate strategies. We can do assessment for required implementation investments. It's a tool with low cost and high effectiveness diagnostic action. What means that it's very cheap and you can play a lot with this tool. Okay, it can be redone to achieve ideal scenario. We choose scenarios, we choose places, and you make it find another vision, another way, another condition. This is the cycle of the business, just for everyone know. So we have a project, we do simulation, we do some field tests and evaluation, and we run and you change some of some point and do it again and do it again. Okay, now we do the business plan, and now we get another cycle here for check, implementation, and evaluation. That's the way we think that the things makes run in Brazil. It's common to do simulation. It's necessary to do simulation. No one puts a pilot in a plane to pilot the plane without do the simulator in base. That's important to save money. It's very important for everyone. Okay, that's what we have in this rush time. I hope we find a way to get the right information for all you guys. Thank you. Thank you all.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Luis. And I hope it's clear. That's very important to be simulations, to have enough information to be business plan and make the right decisions to invest in Brazil in the right way, to export in the right way. So now we have Jessica, no? So can we introduce Jessica with trend and market information? I think that is another special guest with Jessica, really special person in Brazil. So welcome, Jessica. How are you?
Hello, everyone. How are you? Good afternoon. I'm really glad to be talking to you today. Although we are facing a huge health crisis all over the world, but we still can make that disconnection. So my name is Jessica Marinzaki. I've been working in the wine industry now for about 10 years in different fields. So I started off as a sommelier in a restaurant in Malta. Well, yeah, I ended up in Malta, but that's another story. But I've been working most of my time in the wine industry focused on retail. Today, I work as an executive strategic manager for Divino.com.br. Divino is a wine e-commerce that belongs to Angeloni. Angeloni is one of the biggest retail chains in Brazil. And today we were going to talk about a little bit about consumer behavior and wine trends. So broadly speaking, when you think about wine consumers here in Brazil, you have to have in mind 4 different types of wine consumers. Let's go. First, that's what we call careless. What does that mean? People that really want to drink wine, but they really don't care if it's Malbec, Primitivo, Aliani, Costura. No, they're just seeking for low price wines. But although it doesn't sound very appealing, these people, they buy a lot. We're talking about quantity here. So although maybe it's not your first customer that you have in mind, but it's good to have a point of where you can start. Then you have what we can call here like a little bit curious. So it's that person that gave like a step up. This person now knows that he or she likes a Malbec or a Primitivo. They do like to try different wines, but they are very, very attached to brands. So, I like to drink, I don't know, I think about Primitivo a lot because Brazilians, they really love Primitivo. But, when I'm talking about brands, it's not only about the wine brand. The grape itself now became a brand as well on its own. So, Primitivo is a brand here in Brazil. They probably don't know the producer, and I'm really sorry to tell you this, but they know they like Primitivo. So, and then the third type of wine consumer here in Brazil is what we can call adventurous. They have drank lots of wine. They are open to, orange wine, biodynamic wines, wines from Georgia, which sounds very unusual here for Brazilians, right? So those are the adventures. They can always, they can also pay more for this wine bottle. You have to have that in mind. So if you have that wine that you fermented with wild yeast and has that like funky aroma, probably this is the sort of consumer that you're looking for. And then you have the so-called wine expert. Probably they call themselves experts. They are not experts like, you, me, Karine, that we work in the wine business, but they know their wines. They know what Barolo is. They know what Brunello, they know the value, They drink Bordeaux. They're the sort of customers. Probably this sounds very appealing. I really want to sell to those guys because they're gonna buy my, most expensive bottle of wine. But they are really like the smallest part of the wine market here in Brazil. The majority of the consumers, they are they live between that person that knows the grape and the adventures, so the majority is here, and the smallest group, let's say, lies here on the expert and the careless, on the extreme parts. When we talk about where these people, they buy their wines, here in Brazil, most of the consumers, they buy still at the supermarket. And when we think about supermarket wines, yes, we're talking about entry-level wines. Of course, the majority of the consumers are at one end of this chain. But bear in mind, we are a huge country and we have so many sorts of supermarkets here in Brazil. And when we talk about the wine aisle in a supermarket, sometimes not even an aisle only anymore. It's a dedicated space with a sommelier helping the customers there. What are you gonna cook tonight? What is this wine for? Is it a gift? Are you gonna prepare something special for your family, your husband, your wife? What's going on? So you have a wine consultant over there the whole time. So supermarket wines are not only that really cheap, easy to drink, daily wine, not only that. And remember, most of the Brazilians, they buy their wines still in the supermarket. Obviously, you also have some other ways people buy their wines. Online, for example. So the online wine market is going really big. When you talk about online retail only, half of the Brazilians that, spend their money on anything, they like to buy stuff online because it's so much easier. You can search for prices, you can buy in quantity. Sometimes if you spend a lot, you don't pay for the delivery fee, which is huge here, depending on where you are, if you're in the north part or if you're at the southern part. So online is a good, and online is also a good entrance here in our market. Why? Because companies are investing in marketing. So if you really want to spread the word about your wine here in Brazil, online, it might be a good way to enter this market. Obviously, we have specialized shops, and of course, we have the on-trade. The on-trade, like most of the countries in the world, it suffered a lot during COVID. We do have, 2 Michelin stars restaurants, mostly in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. You have in other capitals as well. But remember, although you can build a brand in a very chic, modern restaurant, the volume is not there. So don't be mad at your importer that, your wine is not selling a lot, because restaurants are not functioning 100% like they were in the past. So if you want to build a brand, think about the on-trade. Search about the on-trade, because what works in São Paulo probably does not work in the northern part of Brazil. And don't take it for granted. I know São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro sound sexy and appealing, but Recife, which is a capital of Pernambuco in the northeast, is the capital of whiskey in the world. Whiskey is the most consumed distilled drink in the world in Recife, Pernambuco. So you cannot take it for granted here in Brazil. You have to do your research. When we talk about wine trends, here we are watching wine in cans working really well, especially for young consumers. And you have to catch the attention of these people. You have to create this connection with young consumers as well. Bag-in-box is something that became really fashionable now during the pandemic, because people are working at home most of the time. You go there, you just take a small wine glass for lunch or whatever at the end of the day. So bag-in-box is doing really well. Some organic wines too. People like to. Well, I think this is not only a Brazilian thing, but it's a world thing. So when you buy something from someone that is looking after nature, is looking after their community, of course you would like to help this company. You create some sort of relationship. So when consumers go to the supermarket, and I had a wine shop here in Brazil. I've been working online for most of my time. When people go to buy a wine bottle, they are not only looking for the bottle itself, unless they are the careless type of wine drinker. I just want to know the price. But most of the people, they want to know the story. Yes, this storytelling is not something that, faded away and people don't talk about it anymore. No, you have to have a connection. And Luis was talking a little bit about the rules and regulations for importing wine here in Brazil. And the wine label in Brazil is such a headache. This is something that you have to have in mind. And when you were thinking about the Brazilian market and you think about the back label, it's nice to have, some touch, like enjoy this wine with a moment, a recipe or whatever. There are a lot of wine bottles in the shelves of the supermarket. If someone grabs your bottle and reads something that can relate with, the sale is done. You don't have to do anything else. Remember, you're competing with a lot of wines. São Paulo especially is a huge wine market. Just to have in mind some numbers, there is this company called Wine Intelligence. They release a lot of studies about the wine market in the world. Brazil now is the 14th most important wine market in the world. It has grown hugely in 2020. In 2020, we had about 39 million wine drinkers. This number has raised up by 7 million people in 2 years. In 2 years, we had 7 million people that declare they drink wine on a daily basis. I'm sorry about my lack of understanding. I don't know how many people live in Milano, for example, but 7 million people. It's not a number that you can just, forget about it. So it's a market that's growing a lot. A lot of acquisitions, companies buying each other here. The scenario is really looking very, very exciting. So I don't know how long I've been speaking now, but if you have any questions, anything, I can happily answer the questions to you. And also Karini, she has my contacts. You can always send me a message and social media, etc. I think that's it.
Oh, Jessica, you are fantastic. Jessica, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure just to hear your words. You are really, really maravilhosa, you say in Brazilian, in Portuguese. So I know that I think that has arrived some questions, no? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, for Jessica and Luis, do you have some questions?
Yeah.
I know that Jessica talked about a lot of things, more or less traumatic for Italians, something like cans, big but I love it, her words. But tell me.
The question is, what is the importance of classification for the HS code?
What is important?
Of classification of the
Okay,
HS code.
it's for Luis. Luis, we have a question for you. What is the importance of classification of HS code, the NSM, no? Are you there,
Okay.
Luis?
Okay, I'm here.
Yes, okay. What is the importance of HS code? Can you explain another time the difference between HS code and NSM? NCM?
Yes, I do it. The HS code is the international number for classification, and NCM is Brazilian and Mercosur code. Okay. Usually the four first numbers are the same, but the others have some details different, some different details, and so we must take care to do the classification. It's very, very important because you will find the taxes that the products will pay, and so the administrative things that you must follow to do the importation. So if you have what kind of license you have, what kind of things you need to do, like in the wine, you must do analysis in the country of origin, in the country of reach, in delivery country. So the NCM, like HS, show us what you must to do according taxes and regulations to do the operation.
Okay. So if it's wrong, it's dangerous for us, no? I can pay more tax.
Yeah, we can talk one day about that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The next one, do you have another one?
Yeah, I got one more question. How is the scenario for organic and biodynamic wines in Brazil? What is scenario of? Organic and biodynamic wine.
It's for Jessica. Jessica, what is this scenario of organic and biodynamic wines in Brazil? It's a very good question because yesterday in the fair, someone asked me this.
Well, some part of this market is still very niched, so it's still a little bit small. And when you really want to focus, let's say one better example. So you are a wine producer that wants to work with an importer that only deals with organic and biodynamic wines. Probably this wine importer is still a little bit small here in Brazil, but there is a space. I mentioned that people like to relate to products that they rely, that they know they're doing a good job. So if you have a sustainable production, even if you're not certified organic, you are eco-friendly, that we say here. There is a lot of margin for you to have some sort of differentiation in the sea of wine bottles here in Brazil. So if you have this sort of differentiation, but really in the DNA of the company, not just like marketing stuff, just to be different, but it's the DNA of your company, you should mention it, because even if you want to work in a more in a smaller group, in a niched wine importer, you will have your consumer here, although most of the consumers, they are not yet only looking for organic and biodynamic wines. I hope I made that clear.
Oh, good. Yes, it's interesting. Okay, thank you. Do you have another question for Jessica? Something like market?
Yeah.
For the market?
What is the market share for wine producing countries in Brazil?
What is the market share?
For wine producing countries in Brazil.
What is the market share for the wine used?
Wine producing countries.
Okay, for the wine produced. Do you understand? Because here,
I
okay. I think it's better for you. Okay.
Here in Brazil, the Chile has 24, no more, probably more, 30-ish of the market share here in Brazil.
Yes.
Then you have an interesting scenario. You have Argentina and Portugal always like, changing positions for second place. But I think what's the most relevant thing about Chile, Argentina, and Portugal is their work with content. And of course, you might say, Chile, Argentina, they have some sort of helping, so to speak, with taxes and etc. Yeah, we have some familiarity and stuff. But when Portugal took the second place from Argentina in the market here in Brazil, was the time that they were doing a huge work promoting wines of Portugal. And it was not only Vinhos de Portugal. No, you could get the DOs, Vinho Verde, Alentejo, Tejo, working on wine events all over the country to make people remember the wines. It's not only, so I have to teach people about the soil or the inclination of my vineyard. That is fun. I like that. But you have to bring the wine closer to the people's, activities. So tell them that you can have gavi with fish. Tell them that you can, pair pork ribs with primitivo, or then you can have the rosé prosecco, which is something new in the market, with, chicken pie or whatever. Bring that close to people's reality here. Oh, but yeah, I have to pair, my wine with feijoada. No, we don't eat feijoada the whole day. Like the Americans don't eat fried chicken the whole day. And the Japanese, they don't eat sashimi the whole day. We have to search what people are doing in the market. So working with partners that can help you understand and promote content and bring the wines closer to people's reality, it's what makes a lot of difference.
It's a very, very important difference. Yes. It's a secret of Portuguese wines in Brazil, no? Because Portugal pays the same tax of other countries, no? So, but they understood how to work with Brazilian people. So I think that it was very, very important answer about the secret how to work with Brazilian. So thank you. And is there? Okay.
Yeah, we got one more question. Is that possible to send wine samples to Brazil?
Oh, it's a good question. I think that is for Luis, but I saw I saw the Jessica. Luis, is it possible to send samples to Brazil? Wine samples.
Unfortunately not. It's impossible to send samples, like samples. You must pay the regular taxes for the products. The aduana doesn't allow you to do it.
So samples paying tax. So
I receive.
it's an important. It's a regular importation, no?
It's regular. We can do the another way. Someone sells some ideas that is possible, but it's not. I receive some requests every day about that, and I'm sorry, we can't do it. You must pay all taxes.
Okay, you have to pay tax in Brazil always, so it's impossible to send samples.
Just doing some adding the Jessica answer. Mercosur has some benefits, so they don't pay the importation tax. That's a huge part of their taxes. So they have good wines, but they pay less tax in Brazil.
Yes, yes. Okay, good questions. This is it finished? Yes.
Got one more if you.
More one? Yes, we have. Yep. Okay.
What is necessary to import wine in Brazil in terms of license?
Yes. What is necessary to import wine in Brazil in terms of license? Can a Brazilian person, my son, my brother, can import wine, or is it necessary special license?
Yeah, for import wine in Brazil, it's necessary to be registered at Receita Federal or Aduana Brazil. It's necessary to have registered there, and so in agriculture too. We can do it without being registered at Aduana and Agriculture.
Okay, so I can't.
Both ones.
So, for example, I can send my wine for Jessica because she needs a license to import my wine. So, is it okay?
Yeah.
So it's necessary.
That's a product that must do important license. So the technical people that does that is the agriculture guys.
Okay, thank you.
We got last question.
The last question?
Yeah, is there any opportunity to fiscal benefits to improve the cost impacts?
Did you understand? Is there any benefit?
We have some. We have some. Like Karina told you, Brazil is a huge country. So we have a lot of places where we have different taxes. And the circulation taxes in some places are different than São Paulo. For São Paulo, I show you we have 25% of tax. We have some conditions in places that we can pay only 4. We have places we have 12. We have places where we pay 18. So that's why simulation is important to choose the right scenario to do your importation and to check what price your product will reach to the country. So you can check your lucrativity.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It was the last one? Okay, I have one question for Jessica. Jessica, can I... It's my question. It's a question for... Is there Jessica? Yes, okay. Jessica, what do you think about Italian wines in this year in Brazil? How is the market? Because we are working a lot. I think that it's a good year for Italian wines, but I would like to hear about you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, Italian wines, they are already at the heart of Brazilians, people really relate to the wines. So as I said, some wines, they are a brand on its own, like Chianti, for instance. People probably don't understand what the difference is of a Gran Selezione or a Rufina. They probably don't understand, but they do like it. So some grapes, they might be difficult. So I had this experience with Aglianico, for example. Aglianico is such, this is a good example. Aglianico is such a grape that Brazilians love it because, there is like tennis and it's full-bodied. But most of people, they don't know about Aglianico.
Yes.
You have to explain about it. So there is this time that you have to tell people what it is in their glasses, what they're drinking, what are the benefits. So I'm not a huge fan of comparing wines on a way that, it's similar to whatever. But sometimes it's educational to do that.
Yes, it's necessary to educate.
Yeah, because do you like Montepulciano d'Abruzzo? So if you like Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, you will like this sort of wine.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of options. This is also one of the reasons people sometimes go online to buy the wines, because they feel stupid on the wine shops. And some people, some sommeliers, so they are not very friendly. They're like, oh, you don't know how to pronounce Brunello de Montalcino. You don't know how to pronounce that. They can be mean. So online, you can search the whole world, the whole thing. So being online is really important. I was just one more thing. I was reading this article the other day about social media and how different it is, right, for different cultures. Like in the US, it's huge. Here in Brazil, it's huge. In the UK, now people don't bother to look to social media, but here in Brazil, people love it. They love a video on YouTube, of your wine and some sort of good meal. They love some nice photo on Instagram. They love it. They relate to it. It's a we're showing off people.
Yes.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Yes, we know this. Yes, thank you very much. It was a fantastic, we say in Italian, chiacchierata. Okay, it was fantastic chiacchierata. And thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Luis. Thank you very much for everybody who was here. I think it was a pleasure time together. And it was an honor for me to be here. And I hope everybody goes to Brazil as soon as possible, because our country is a fantastic country, not just for holiday, but for sell and drink wines too. So thank you, Luis. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Milano Wine Week.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sì, buonasera. Volevo, signor Ronaldo, mi sente? Credo di sì, vediamo se la sento anch'io.
Sì, sento un poco, un attimo.
Magari
solo
adesso
che
stavo parlando
non
un po' più piano.
Ah, ok.
Ok, allora per una questione tecnica di comodità pensavamo che diciamo invece di farle condividere lo schermo con la presentazione la mandiamo noi, però lei magari ci chiama le pagine successive.
Ok,
Per lei è
va
un
bene.
problema questo? È più carino a livello di video perché possiamo fare cioè possiamo mettere le due immagini, possiamo fare un po' di cosine così.
Ok, va benissimo.
Va bene? Ok. E allora,
La presentazione la posso fare in italiano o la devo fare in inglese?
in italiano perché la traduciamo in inglese
perfetto.
noi con la simultaneista in sala.
Perfetto, va bene.
Perfetto, grazie mille. Allora le diamo
Ricordo solo
quando
che
siamo
chiudo la finestra,
operativi,
c'è
le
un po'
diamo un
di
ok
rumore,
per
iniziamo.
partire.
Ok.
signor Ronaldo, mi sente? Ci sente, signor Ronaldo? Ok, appena siamo pronti diamo il via, può iniziare. Quando sente sfumare la musica può iniziare. Quindi le dicevo, quando le do l'ok può iniziare a parlare, verosimilmente quando sì. Ok, grazie, adesso la sento bene, grazie. Ok, signor Leonardo, sto sfumando la musica, può iniziare.
Buongiorno a tutti, sono Ronaldo Padovani, Trade Analyst dell'ufficio ICE di San Paolo in Brasile, e avrò il piacere di fornirvi alcune informazioni sul mercato brasiliano e spero di non ripetere sempre dati interessanti sull'andamento del mercato. Passiamo alla prossima slide. Pronto, passiamo alla prossima. Possiamo caricare tutta la lista, così condividiamoci gli argomenti con i partecipanti. La lista è lunga, ci parleremo prima, un attimino sull'andamento del mercato brasiliano, come si è comportato nell'ultimo anno particolarmente, il profilo del consumatore, la produzione e l'importazione, che sono dati che vi interessano di più, i principali player, non solo i principali importatori e distributori, ma anche le principali aziende particolarmente italiane che sono presenti in Brasile, accise, altre imposte, che c'è un tema che è già stato trattato precedentemente, la normativa particolarmente per l'importazione dei vini in Brasile, e poi c'è la promozione
of the Sao Paulo ICE office to try and then promote Italian products and introduce new labels and new products in this flourishing market. Next. So before discussing the Brazilian wine market, we should talk about Brazil as a whole. So Brazil is a large country, a continental country. It has over 8.5 million square kilometers, a population of over 212 million people. However, you may wonder, why is it large? I mean, it's a large country, and I need just to focus on some areas, and mainly in Sao Paulo, because actually the main portion of the population is mainly concentrated in the Atlantic coast, along the Atlantic coast, and then more activities, farming activities, then industrial activities, and then services all along this coast. And also for historical reason, the population is mainly in the state of Sao Paulo. And it's no coincidence that today the Sao Paulo state has 30% of GDP, Brazilian GDP, which is about 14,000 PPA dollars. And the state of Sao Paulo has about 40% is 40% over the average. And this doesn't only apply to the various states, but also within the state itself. So if you think of the city of Sao Paulo, which is the capital of the state, and here we have about 80% more the average GDP. So we are in the order of $25,000. And if we go into greater details in the various districts, we find some districts where the purchasing power of the population is as high as cities like New York, Paris, so much more well-off cities. Next.
E quello, no, abbiamo passato, torniamo indietro.
Sorry, can you go back one slide?
E quello giustifica perché.
So this justifies why this country is so large, because it's developing and growing, but this doesn't involve yet the entire population. So the wine consumption market accounts for 39 million people, and we expected, 10 years ago, these people were 22 million. So the wine consumers who drink wine at least once a month has gone up by 10 million people. So this growth was particularly relevant over the last 2 years, and especially in the last year during the pandemic, it's estimated that there has been an increase in this number of consumers by 3 million people. Other than these 39 million who drink wine more frequently, there are 40 additional million estimated by Wine Intelligence who drink wine, but they still do so with a frequency below once a month. And therefore, we can split the market into three large categories. Those that are not yet enjoying wine, those that drink little wine, and those who are more familiar with wine and drink more. So, and this increase in the number of consumers is of course, means actually that per capita consumption has gone up quite significantly over the last 12 months and moved from 2019 from 2.13 liters, which is still a low figure, but it's growing. So it's a market that is still open, and therefore, for the next few years, we expect many opportunities.
So
many possibilities. So consumption last year in total, again estimated by Euromonitor International, 337 million liters. And here we have to add something else, because of course, every survey is based on specific methods, and so the final results are different. Euromonitor International gave us 337 million letters, whereas Statista stated 302 million. Other Brazilian surveys made with other methods refer to 500 million. In any case, the common denominator is that the market is growing, is developing, and therefore there are huge opportunities that you should grasp. Then, so I was saying that the market today, according to Euromonitor International, is around 300 million. So the market is 337 million liters, actually last year. And in 2019, we had 272, and then we have about a 20% increase. And we went from 11 million of reais to 2 million euros, went up to 12 million, which means about 2 billion euro. So it's a 7% growth. And so this market is growing, but in particular with cheaper wines, so these entry-level wines. And since every year there are new people who maybe try local wines, less complex wines, cheapest wines, simplest wines, but little by little they gain familiarity and experience, and in the end they then drink more expensive wines. In 2020, so estimated consumption by Euromonitor was 337, about 340 million liters. And it's estimated that within 2025, this figure might go up to 510 million liters. So a 50% increase year over year, 8% plus 8% year over year. Other market surveys, for instance, Statista, has slightly different figures because they start from so the market is different. So it's about 400 million liters in 2025. But in any case, both surveys agree that the growth will be around 7-8% year over year. And so Brazil is the 74th wine market, and so is in between in the list. So why not investing in this market? Well, this is still a virgin market, a small market, yet set to grow remarkably, more than 8% a year. And therefore, there are opportunities for all the wineries. And what are the channels used for this wine? So to supply this wine to the consumers. Of course, there are two main groups, on-trade and off-trade. Then consumption in bars, restaurants, in events. And traditionally, this accounts for 20% of the Brazilian consumption, whereas the off-trade means purchasing and drinking wine at home, and that's about 80%. Last year, the pandemic, due to the lockdowns, and so it was not easy to go to the restaurants and hotels, and so the role in this sector went down significantly. Sales in the sectors went down by 21% in this channel, whereas the off-trade has taken part of the on-trade sales, and that it increased also because so sales in this segment went up by more than 30%. And so quantity-wise, the volumes goes up 30%, and the value, however, goes up slightly less. Still, because the consumers, so the new consumers, start to with less expensive products, and then little by little they gain experience, and they buy more expensive wine.
Ok, cioè all'interno dell'off-trade ci sono dei segmenti.
In the off-trade, there are some segments and some channels that are more important, such as supermarkets that account about 36%.
Negli ultimi 3 anni,
Over the last 3 years. And the pandemic hasn't impacted much in this channel, which remains at around 36%, 35%. And then, of course, we have the large supermarkets, the so-called hard discounts. Then, in these supermarkets, the role is a little less because these supermarkets are less common, and generally they are in places that are more far away from the city, and people during the pandemics decided, due to social distancing reasons, decided to go shopping in the areas in the closest shops. So much so that the small supermarkets have a larger share. And it went up by 0.24%. And therefore, what was lost by the hard discounts and hypermarket was gained by supermarkets. So small supermarkets. However, what is surprising, what stands out most, is the role of e-commerce. So e-commerce plays a key role in Brazil and also in other places. Over the last 3 to 4 years, the share of e-commerce was growing, but we can see that in 2020, so the online e-commerce has gained a much larger shares from it tripled its share from around 3 to 9%. And people who got used to buy, so use this channel, probably this channel would lose some participation because now some stores and supermarkets are now opening again, and therefore because we no longer have lockdowns, and will recover some ground. In any case, e-commerce has grown, and it has proven and approved by supermarkets, and it has to be strong. And in the supermarket chains, specialized chains, those who didn't have e-commerce tried to create their own platforms or use pre-existing platforms, not to remain out of the market. And
distribuivano di più verso long trade.
And there is also a growing role of on-trade as well as e-commerce.
Passiamo al prossimo.
So let's move to the next one.
Sì, il mercato cresce.
Well, the market is actually growing, and it's 340 million liters. But as we've said, this market starts to develop initially mainly with less expensive wines. And about 85% of the market is focused on wines that cost less than 30 reais. So wine that costs up to 30 reais means 5 euros, around 5 euros, less than 5 euros.
Dovesse questo vino essere c'è l'importatore bassa e eventualmente qualcuno dei paesi più vicini, però decisamente i vini europei, cioè non
So European
in questo mercato
wines are not very present in this market
così bassi. E
at
invece
competitive prices.
da 40 reais,
But it's from 40, 60 reais and up, is set to grow. And probably this will be around 67% of those 40 million liters that we've seen.
Passiamo al prossimo.
Let's now move to the next one.
Slide. Ok. Vediamo che il consumo medio.
So we can see that average consumption was 2.78 liters per capita, but there are some states in the Brazilian Federation where consumption is much higher, and in others it's much lower, and for very specific reasons. For instance, the state of Rio Grande do Sul, that is in the southern part of the country, has a per capita consumption in the order of 7 liters per person. And why do they drink more? Well, because for historical reasons and geographical reasons, and so there are other reasons that can be associated with this, where we have most of the Brazilian production of wine, because the soil has certain characteristics, the climate, then the incidence of the sun, etc. And the main varieties in this territory
insomma, quella zona hanno trovato, si sono stabiliti bene, quindi buona parte della produzione
are now gaining ground, and 80% of Brazilian production is concentrated in that state. So it's normal that the local population drinks more. And the federal district where Brasilia is, so the capital of the country, has an impact of 4.6 liters per person. Why? Well, because this is the city in this country with the highest purchasing power. And because there are politicians and public officials and so who have an average high average income, and also travel quite a lot, and so therefore can afford to drink wine more frequently. As to Rio de Janeiro, the average consumption is above the average, the national average, and in this area there are many tourists, foreign tourists. There are many hotels, and
in Brasile continua nella sua abitudine di bere il vino e provare
these
anche São Paulo ha un certo
the people here enjoy wine. And also in Sao Paulo, there are quite a few tourists, but this is more kind of commercial tourism.
Ok, la prossima slide.
Next slide.
Sì, ci siamo, perfetto, era saltato il collegamento. E quindi
Sorry, I lost the connection.
per il momento abbiamo
So for the time being, we
abbiamo fatto vedere
talked
alcuni
about, so I've shown
il vino fermo.
the market, and now I'd like to give you some information about fortified wines and spumante or sparkling wines.
Rappresenta un circo
So fortified wines account for 5-6% of the market, 18.7 million liters last year, and it is
leggera diminuzione negli anni scorsi alla pandemia, l'anno scorso in particolare.
there was some drop before the pandemic, and the market last year went down by 32.4% because it's a drink which is mainly drank out of door and in restaurants and bars, and due to the lockdown they were closed. And it's expected to see a recovery of this market by the next 5 years by about 50%, 48%, 50%. That will be enough to make up for the losses of last year, but it's not enough to make up for the losses of the last 5 years, including last year that was the the most challenging year. Also, the sparkling wines had a drop by 18% last year, always due to the pandemic. But the reasons here are different, because sparkling wines are mainly drunk in celebrations, weddings, celebrations in companies, also exhibitions. And then sparkling wines are used in cocktails.
Essere realizzate nell'anno scorso, il mercato ovviamente è calato della.
And this market had a drop of relevant 15 to 20%. So a recovery is expected in the next few years by 60%, and this will make it possible to make up for the last year's losses, but also we will grow again. It will grow again and become an even more interesting market.
Passiamo. Ok, chi è il consumatore brasiliano?
Anyway, who is the Brazilian consumer? There was quickly a slide. So Brazilian consumer, first of all, likes, in particular, red wine. 82% of the market buys and is concentrated on red wine. 16.8, 17% white wine, and rosé for the time being is only 1%. Red wine, so amongst the most consumed grapes, we have the Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. Then there is white, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay. And it's no coincidence that these are the grapes, most common grapes and varieties made, and the wines are made in this country or in Argentina and Chile. So they are more part of the daily life of Brazilian food lovers. And while the consumption of white and red went up by 28 to 27% last year, the increase in the sales of rosé has been far greater, up to 45%. And therefore, it's still a small market, but that is offering good opportunities. In the previous presentation, someone asked about the role of import. As of now, about 69% of wine marketed in Brazil is Brazilian, so national wine, and about 31% is wine, imported wine. And 76% of the wine is red, and 17% is white. And if we also consider the entire market, red wines are a little higher up, 82%. And for the imported wines, the role of red wines is slightly less because rosé takes up part of that market. White wine is the same share, whereas rosé is growing. And 59% of Brazilian consumers are less than 35-year-old, and 30% of this population of these consumers use the digital channels. But not at the beginning. I mean, so the new entrants, the 30 million that entered the market last year, so not that amount. So they don't know yet. They are not yet familiar. They don't know yet what to choose. For instance, on an e-commerce platform. So generally, they prefer to buy in physical channels, whereas those with more experience prefer also buy through the internet, so e-commerce, such that this the e-commerce channel went up significantly last year. Another interesting characteristic is the opening of Brazilian consumers, because 70% are open to new products and therefore must be exposed to new wines. And so the wine clubs that are pretty popular here in Brazil, and so they also have e-commerce platforms, and so are a way to try these new wines. Let's say that the rule for those who are part of these clubs is that they receive for a couple of, or 2-3 times a month. So they receive new products, new labels, and generally this is the rule. So some large ones like Ogasuka do this. So they launch a product in this club, and then if it's appreciated, then the wine is sold in their e-commerce store. And if the product performs well, it is then sent to the physical stores of this chain, which is present nationwide. And therefore, maybe sometimes the wine is the same, but we can see that from the one year to the next, there might be differences. There might be slight differences, but it's also important to change. And so the label, the bottle, so the idea is to do things that attract the consumer's interest. And of course, so that the consumers become familiar with these new wines. And also we have the word of mouth between consumers. Wine intelligence breaks the market into various groups, which are very interesting because they account for 29% of consumers, which account for 62% of the purchases in this sector. The first group is the enthusiast. So wine enthusiasts are young, so they're all actually young, but the first group have a higher purchasing power. And the second explorers are young people who don't have a high purchasing power, like the enthusiasts. However, drinking wine is part of their lifestyle, and therefore, as the more money they have, the more they are inclined to buy more expensive wines and drink more. So drinking wine to them is a lifestyle. And when it comes to the lifestyle, so there is something else that is very important. So we have to disengage this market. So we have to separate consumption and certain characteristics. Because maybe this is one of the most challenging barriers to overcome. Wine consumption in Brazil is still very much related to winter, cold months, dinners, get-togethers with friends, and also some formal moments. And it's a product also for elderly people, so and with a higher purchasing power. And therefore, some education is needed for people to understand that wine can contribute. So it's a type of wine that must be interpreted also based on the food you pair it with. So it can be used in any sort of meeting. And also when you go to the beach, you can bring some. If you're part of a churrasco, for instance, the BBQ. This is very common in Brazil. And it can be used and this is a segment which is often related to other drinks such as beers, fizzy or sodas and caipirinha and so on. So as we move along, the more we educate Brazilian consumers, not only can we increase consumption, but also the knowledge of these people so that these people buys ever better products. So we can now, perhaps we can skip to the next page. So 70%. This is so let's see. Let's now talk about local production.
Nonostante non ha una grossa produzione, sono 2,2 milioni di ettolitri. La produzione del 2020 è stata praticamente...
So production in 2020
dicono che la produzione del 2021 sarà
was 2.2 million. They say that in 2021 production is set to be a little less. Some say that this is going to be a very good year because there was a good rainfall, good sun at the right time, and these made this. So we have already seen that the production is in Rio Grande do Sul, in the southern part of the country. The main grapes are Chardonnay, Riesling, Moscato, and also we have the Moscato sparkling wines, so Moscato Spumante. And in other areas where we have some production is Minas Gerais, where there is production of Syrah. and also Sao Paulo, where there are some interesting wineries. In the past, there was some production of table wine, and now we have some wineries already with more expensive wines. But wine production isn't a strength in this state. And then we have to underline the participation of the state.
In cui è l'unico stato del paese dove
So this is the only state
strana perché non c'è il freddo, non c'è
where wine is made, despite it's a bit cold, so the climatic conditions
c'è delle uve e invece
are
c'è la combinazione
unusual, but they found the lucky combination to make these wines, and also good quality wines. So there are some quite good products from that area that are also appreciated and exported in other places.
Parliamo un po' di importazioni nella prossima slide.
So let's move to the next slide.
Le importazioni brasiliane crescono e quello è naturale, se cresce il mercato.
So if the market grows, also the import grow, and
che la produzione brasiliana non è ancora in grado di occupare. Nell'anno scorso, nel 2020,
last year in 2020, Brazil imported 144 million liters. This means slightly more than 1/3 of the market. Import went up by about 20%. And also something interesting in this chart,
del mercato, cioè il mercato comincia
so the market starts to import more in March,
va sempre in un crescente fino al mese di ottobre,
and up to October. Then in the last 2-3 months of the year,
diminuisce un po' il gennaio e febbraio.
It goes down a little bit, then it bounces back up in March of next year.
Nell'anno scorso vediamo molto bene questo comportamento che è stato, diciamo, praticamente lineare.
We have seen this pattern, the same pattern.
Anziché arrivare al picco al massimo nel mese di
But instead of having a peak in October, the peak was in November, and because
eventualmente perché nel mese di novembre dell'anno scorso
in November last year
un recupero della
there was a recovery of the Brazilian currency, and so products who had stocks in customs profited from this situation to clear the products and then import them and pay taxes with more advantageous conditions. And we have seen that the market last year, imports went up by 14-15%, and in previous year also imports increased by 16%. But let's say that the increase by 14-15% in 2020 is actually more relevant than the year earlier, 1 year earlier, because last year real got devaluated by about 30%, and therefore this means that even though real lost by 30% its purchasing power compared to the main foreign currencies, consumption and import of wine went up. And true, so the exchange rate impacted the results, but not in a very relevant way. So import keep growing in 2021, but at a slower rate compared to a year earlier. And actually, so we don't expect a growth by 20-30%, as we have seen last year. We don't expect this time so to happen again. And therefore, this means that also import will keep growing, but at a lower pace. And at the end of the year, we may get to 162 million liters. And, so here we can see the results of the last few months.
Passiamo alla prossima.
Then next.
Ok, chi sono i principali fornitori
Are the main suppliers of wine? Because of Chile, Argentina, and also Uruguay. Well, because they are closer and because they approach the market with more investments, and because the custom barriers are less, and also they are geographically closer. So Chile accounts for 49 to 50% of import. And then we have Portugal, as Jessica said, and Argentina. Sometimes Argentina is 1% more, another year Portugal is 1% more, but they are always around 15-16%. So fighting with each other for this second place. And then comes Italy with 7%, then Spain with 5%, and Uruguay with 4%. And then there are other countries. So we have wine from 54 different countries, but most of them come from these 4-5 large countries. Let's now see here. So the interesting thing here is the cost of wine. And we have the cost per liter. The average import over the last 3 years has gone down, and we see the linear correlation coefficient is negative, and also this coefficient is negative for Portuguese wines and Spanish wines. And perhaps also this justifies to some extent why these European competitors, Portuguese and Spanish, are growing more than us, because we see that the prices go down, the product average of Portuguese and Spanish products tend to drop, and Italian products, on the contrary, tend to be slightly increasing. And this increase can probably is justified, is due to 2 reasons. First of all, increasing costs, because there is production cost increase in Italy, and therefore the cost is higher. or also
stia acquistando prodotti
probably because Brazilians buy more expensive Italian products. Or maybe both things contribute.
Passiamo al prossimo.
Let's now move to the next one.
E questo grafico vediamo bene che
And,
mentre le importazioni
we can see
portoghesi,
that,
che sono quelle, c'è il grafico su in alto, aumentano cioè tutte e tre aumentano.
Actually,
però
all of them are increasing,
vediamo
but
che sempre l'indice di correlazione lineare è un indice
there is always a linear correlation index of 22, and so Portuguese go up 3 times as much as Spain, and Italians are at 54. And so they do grow, but still at a slow pace.
approfittando così bene c'è le opportunità di
So maybe Italians aren't grasping all the opportunities like from this market like the other European
Qui ho messo
competitors.
questa slide solo per far
Here I
vedere
put this just
le fasce di
to
prezzo
show you the price ranges and the cost of imported products. So we have 45% is the volume of import,
fino a 18,
and
18,99.
up to
18,99 sono
18.99. This is a pack of 9 liters and 12 liters. So we're talking about each bottle is about, let's say, slightly $3. And therefore, 45% of the market accounts for cheap products, about 3 euros. And I have to say that most of these 45% are also products that are less expensive than this.
Passiamo alla prossima.
And next.
Purtroppo dobbiamo chiederle di chiudere, che siamo in ritardo, se mi sente.
Ok, va bene, va bene.
So we have to close because we are slightly late.
Va bene, questo qua c'è solo per far vedere la
So this is
partecipazione
just to show the participation
dei canali di distribuzione.
the
Passiamo
distribution
velocemente,
channels.
cioè i principali abbiamo già visto sono i supermercati, però
So we
vediamo
have
che
supermarkets
la partecipazione degli altri canali stanno
and the
crescendo.
participation of other
Performano anche
supermarkets are growing,
però devono approfittare un po' meglio.
and there are also other channels that should profit. So very quickly, this is a very interesting slide that shows Italian wines, main Italian wines that
No, abbiamo passato, c'è una slide in rosso, torniamo indietro. Eccola quella. Cioè qua facciamo vedere
so here we show the main Italian wines drunk in Brazil. So first of all, we have wines from Emilia-Romagna, mainly Lambrusco. At least Lambrusco, or these wines are slightly expensive. So they are more affordable and more in line with the expectations of this young flourishing market. Then after these wines, we have wines from Apulia, Primitivo di Manduria, and Negro Amaro.
Sono prodotti più semplici, più facilmente, cioè eventualmente con maggiore concentrazione di zucchero.
And these are wines with a higher sugar content, and they're more pleasant on the palate.
Del
for Brazilians. And then Tuscany wines. So there are some good opportunities. So there are wines from 10 to 12 regions that account for 98%, 97% of the entire market, what is sold on this market. And as to there are no other regions in this market. And so if the market, so if 70% accounts for these curious people who want to know the
affacciare questo mercato ed investire.
So these people are interested in the market and therefore investments are worthwhile.
Alla penultima slide.
Let's go to the last but one slide.
Ancora, questa informazione più o meno avete già trattato nell'altra presentazione. Ecco qua.
Here it is.
Perfetto, ci sono diverse iniziative.
There are quite a few initiatives in process. The office is, to improve the image and to the image of Italian wine. There is the Sabores da Italia campaign. That is a campaign that we've organized with some supermarket chains in Brazil who are giving us good results. So, one of the players with which we work is Vino. And last year we had our first collaboration that turned out to be good and interesting and fruitful. And we have very good results. We repeated it this year in June, and we achieved, we sold 100,000 bottles. And then there is a second initiative this year in 3 weeks, and we hope we can repeat these results. And we do that with wine and. We have agreements with some supermarket chains to involve more and more supermarkets. And so the idea is to organize these initiatives and so that we can present new opportunities for these players to enjoy, so that these products can be included in their portfolio and can benefit from these actions. And there are also tastings for the moment online, and this would be an opportunity to have samples from for buyers and sommelier, etc.
Arrivare questi campioni in Brasile, quindi approfittiamo, cerchiamo di sviluppare, creare queste iniziative.
So we are trying to implement these initiatives so that Italian wineries can showcase their products. And also there is the APAS exhibition in May next year. The APAS chain is one of the most important, and also the Fiscal Food Service that is more for the HoReCa business. And then
nostra confermata anche nel mese di settembre del 2022. Purtroppo era prevista la partecipazione quest'anno, sempre per
unfortunately, we were supposed to participate this year, but due to the pandemic, we could not do so. So next year, there are quite a few initiatives foreseen in our portfolio for this market. and Italian wineries are more than welcome to join,
benvenute a prendere parte in modo
take
tale
part,
da poter
so that
approfittare di questo
they can profit from this growing market. And other than this, of course, we have additional actions that can be personalized.
Dalle cantine, cioè utilizzando la struttura consolare,
And also through our consulate.
li facciamo poi degustare
So we organize tastings
in tutto il paese
for buyers to create new opportunities for Italian wineries.
siete tutti invitati, cioè, a mettersi in
You're all
contatto con noi
invited
per avere
to contact us to have more information
e anche cioè, per eventuali
and
iniziative
also for personalized initiatives that you may want to organize to be present on this
Mi sono
market.
dilungato un po' oltre a quello previsto. Se avete delle
So
domande,
if you have questions,
cioè lasciarmi,
you can send us an email, and here you have the contacts,
ultime slide,
or
domande via chat
you can
che nei prossimi
so you can send questions,
le risponderò bene.
and I will answer over the next few days. Thank you.